Hey everybody, Jay from Bullshit Corner. Welcome to today's video. Today's video, we are going to do a wheel bearing replacement on my Jeep TJ. They've never been done and they need to be done as part of the axle rebuild. So let's see how impossible they are to get off because everything's rusted to shit. Let's bust these brake calipers off by removing these two bolts. Let's use a 13mm socket. Okay, I got the caliper all tied up with mechanics wire. Your disc brake will just pull off then. Our next step is we're going to remove this cotter pin, pull this little shield off and remove the nut. Okay, before we can get the bearing housing off, we got to remove the nut from the axle because the nut sets the preload on this bearing. If you ever bust your front axle and take the axle out and try to drive it, your bearing here will actually split in half and you'll lose your tire. So if you ever bust your axle, you need to at least put the stub shaft back in to hold the bearing together. So now, okay, I'm in fucking business now. To get the wheel bearing bolts off, 13mm 12 point and a fucking 4-foot snipe. That's what you're gonna need to break that shit free. Anything less and you're just overexerting yourself. Let's fucking do this. Power of the fucking snipe. Who's fucking boss now, Bolt? Who's fucking boss now? Once you get the nut off the bearing, it's got this washer behind. You want to make sure that goes back in. Now to get the bearing off, my bearing is heavily rusted on, so I'm going to use a chisel and a hammer and bang away to get it free. If you try tapping the surfaces here, you're just going to split the bearing in half, which is good if you want to inspect the bearing and see how it looks inside. There we go. Little bit of damage to the shield, oh well. Bearing's off. Okay, now we're ready to insert the bearing. I put my dust shield or splash shield on there first. Gonna make it a little bit easier. Remember your orientation of this too. I fucked up and put it on backwards. Don't ask me how. It's one of those days. Getting ahead of myself. And then just tighten them up and we'll torque them up as soon as they're all tight. Our next step is to torque these to 80 foot-pounds of torque. And I always like to check it twice. Because see, after I tightened her up, got a little more out of her. One more time. Yeah, I think we're good now. This next step I can't stress enough. This sets the preload on the bearing. When you put this and you put your nut on, a lot of people will just fucking torque this down and not even care. Having the proper torque will prolong the life of this bearing. Too tight and it's going to be hard to roll and it's going to wear out quicker. Too loose and the bearing might actually separate from the hub. So it's 180 foot-pounds of torque. So I'm going to snug this up and then we're going to torque her down. Sorry I stand mistaken, 175 foot-pounds of torque. Put this bad boy on there. That's it. The last step, put that little spring washer on. Put this little thing on there, line it up with your cotter pin hole. Put your cotter pin through. That's it, you're done. In the event that your nut may start to back off, that cotter pin will prevent it from coming off and will save the day. Alright, do you know what time it is? It's fucking beer time. That's what time it is. This is the one time, and I'm gonna say it again, is make sure your wheel bearings are torqued properly when you install them. Otherwise, your preload is gonna be off and it's gonna shorten the life of the bearings. Anyways, it's fucking beer time. If you have any comments or questions, post them below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.